Yeah, like 30 years ago.
Oh, I don't want to be Wolverine then. Nah, whatever. Good pairing.
Round one.
Oh, my son's gonna be so disappointed in me.
Oh, I get that. It's having the love for it. I mean, it doesn't really feel like work.
No. And so I had, my next run of auctions all lined up. This is 2010. That was about to launch, and I decided to give it a shot at fixed prices instead. So I edited 3,000, 4,000, 5,000.
And you were using all your past pricing plus maybe some pricing guides.
No, and so that's one of the other things is at night when I wasn't making listings, I would just search eBay in the comic section, blank. I'm not searching any specific thing. So
right.
And at the time you could do it. I don't know if you could do it anymore. So you search within the comics category, and then you click on the sold listings, so you can see what everything
that's sold
for.
Yeah.
So
I do that from time to time.
So
I probably should do it more often.
Oh, dude, all the time.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was into using Overstreet as a guide, and now we have some real price data, real time.
Yeah. This is how the guys come up with the top 10s and what the percentage of things.
So there was
that
this
sold.
huge disparity on a lot of stuff, and I was like, all right, so Overstreet says it's worth $2. What did it sell for 25 on eBay? All right, so all right, that one, log that one away. So I used to do that at night, like studying more pricing, just like I was doing when I was a kid, reading what this stuff is worth and what sets it apart, looking at the description, like, all right, so what do they include in that description that made it get bid up to 25 when Overstreet says it's worth $2? Yeah. Then I go looking for comic stores that go by Overstreet.
And buy there to resell.
Yeah, sure. What they call it.
So that was some. Yeah, so that was some of your sourcing. Was that the main part of your sourcing was other comic shops? So you're having to do some traveling because there's wasn't a ton around.
You're still doing comic shops, conventions, to meet people, and that's the other thing. You got to meet people, and you all share a common interest. So it's not that hard to strike up a conversation with.
No, and guys got stuff they don't like to sell. Yeah, they got stuff they don't like to sell or don't want to sell, or they're having a hard time in their area selling.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I buy from a lot of dealers. I buy indies from a lot of dealers who just don't want to deal with independents. Mm-hmm. They get them in collections, they put them in long boxes, and after they get 5 or 6 of them, they give me a call and they're like, hey, come get this stuff.
So those are my focus, indies.
Yeah.
Because I'm just starting out. There's huge sellers on there, and I'm just a little guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what sets you apart? Pricing, service, selection. So I could fight on pricing a little bit, but I couldn't match them on selection. They had enormous amount of listings. Yeah, but what I could focus on was, if I focus on independent books.
The niche.
Yeah, I'm maybe one of 4 guys trying to sell it. Whereas if I'm selling Amazing Spider-Man 381,
yeah.
There's a zillion people trying to sell that book. Yeah. So how do you stand out, when you're just starting off?
You get buried. You get buried.
You do.
I don't even like the hot books that come out. I don't put on eBay. I can sell those in my store. There's plenty of guys that come through, and I'll give them 20 to 40% off because I won't have to sell it on eBay and ship it and all that. What I put up on is all the weird stuff I get. If I get any weird stuff, I put it on there.
Well, for a local shop, you kind of have to, because what's the likelihood that in your radius, somebody's looking for that independent book?
Right.
You know what I mean? That some guy in Wisconsin wants. And it's like one of only 10 people that are actively looking for it because he has to fill out it's number 4. Like number 1s that are like the first appearance on indies is still a little bit everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to have to stuff it in their collection just in case it takes off in the future. But like issue 4, issue 8, of some independent from the 8, nobody's looking for that. Well, there's 10 guys looking for that. Yeah, it's a small niche, but I could. Now I have a fighting chance.
Yeah.
I'm one of 4 guys or 5 sellers trying to sell that book. So independents were kind of like my thing, and I really studied those hard at night on eBay and looking at pricing. And then I would go to the conventions and I would mostly just focus on the indie section. Well, sorry, Marvel for my own collection. And
indies to sell.
That. And DC was like, I don't want any.
And the indies back then were mostly in the 25-cent box, 10-cent box.
That was the other thing.
Long box for $20.
Buy-in was low. Yep.
Yeah, buy-in was low, so your profit margins were high, which is, you know, when you're in this business, that's one of the most favorite things to have. High profit margin.
That helps. Yeah. So there was a guy. His name was Glenn Campbell. Yeah, that's where I got those books from today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's still your guy.
He's still one of my guys. Yeah. He would put out books at conventions for like 50 cents, but he wanted to move books, so he'd have a way cheaper price if you bought 1,000.
Right.
So I'd show up there with like 3-4 empty long boxes and just like, all right, buddy, this is where I am for the whole convention. And I would just be sitting there picking books. And then, you develop a relationship with the dude. You know what each other likes. Because I'm sitting there for hours. I'm gonna be chatting with the dude, talking to him about stuff. And
where is he sourcing this? So he's still providing you with thousands of books.
There's so many different niches in the comics ecosystem.
Oh yeah.
But he's out there hunting every day. He's going to dealers and like, hey, you got 2 boxes over there. Let me buy those. You got 4 over there that's just been sitting since the last time I was here. Let's do a deal on that.
I can't believe what I've bought from other dealers.
Right, and and I'm buying from him. He's another dealer. Right. So we would end up talking and say, hey, when you're done with this at a convention, why don't you just sell that leftover to me? So I'll take the scraps basically.
Right.
Just starting off, it's low investment.
Sure.
He wants to get rid of it. I'm sure there's something left in there I can make something out of. So, start picking up stuff that way. Talking to dealers and say, hey, convention season is over. Dump your old stock, because nobody wants to come to the same convention and see the same stuff again.
Same stuff? No.
So they want to get rid of that stuff too. So it works well for everybody involved.
Right.
It's just a good way to source a lot of inventory quickly, because I don't want to go out there hunting, digging around like he's doing. That's a time investment. He's on the road looking, talking to shops. Sometimes you go spend hours and then nobody wants to buy anything.
And sometimes you go out sourcing and nobody wants to sell anything.
Yeah.
Everybody's holding.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant to say. But yeah. So to me, my time is best spent making listings, and I have the inventory for it. So that's
the great thing about that. By having the retail shop, people just bring it right through my door.
Yeah, that I don't have. That's one of the aspects I'm lacking in. Is just new inventory popping up. Like, hey,
just out of some rando. Some rando.
Yep.
Yeah. And right now, collections are coming through the door every day. Not all comics, because I do a lot of different SKUs, but we got 50 N64 carts today.
Cool.
So like collections are coming through the door daily. I think a little people are scared about the economy right now, and they know the market's kind of at a high end, and it is about to change, and they want to get out before it changes, right? So, but like I have a way that I buy that I think I'm safe even through really bad times. So
I think that's key. You don't want to be chasing the hot books.
No, I buy I always tell people I don't cherry pick. I buy your collection or I don't buy it. Mm-hmm. We either can come to a price on everything or nothing. That's mine. I know guys that will go through a collection.
I give them the option.
Pick out the books.
And I say, hey, look, I can cherry pick this and leave you with garbage.
Right. Well, what's the thing I say, and that's
I'll just buy the whole thing. What do you want? It's up to you.
Yeah. What do you want to lug? I can get like 8 books out of here, and you can lug all the rest home, and you'll get a lot for these 8 books.
Yeah.
But then you're lugging that 8 boxes home to dump somewhere else.
I've had people go either way.
Yeah.
I've had people they're like, just
a lot of people bring me books. A lot of people bring me collections that have been picked someplace else.
That's frustrating.
And it is, but I'm also fine with that too. Because they leave a lot of good stuff behind.
It's frustrating.
They're picking like the few $100 books out of there. And
it's frustrating because when you're offering them a price, then it seems low.
Yes.
Because there's not the good stuff there to make it up.
Right. Well, I explain that to them. I go know, like the runs there, and we get to the good book. Yeah, we get to the good book, and I'm like, oh, odd that like you have 30 in a row.
Yeah, but
and you're missing this one book. But
there's a way to get there.
And then when they know that I know, it actually usually smooths. Like it makes it really easy because now they just want to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. They have no attachment anymore. The stuff that they knew was worth something is gone. So the rest of the stuff is just a problem.
I don't like dealing with collectors because they have that attachment.
Yeah.
I much prefer to deal with dealers. Yeah, I don't get the, always the gajillion key books in it.
Yeah.
But it's a problem for you that's sitting in your store.
Yep.
Okay. You're ready to move it.
Right.
So you're gonna sell it at a fair price.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with that. I don't want to be, explaining to them, they think it's worth this.
Well,
but they don't know the process of selling it and how long you sit on it and how it doesn't ever actually sell sometimes.
Right.
It's tough, and I don't want to have to go into that salesman shtick. That's kind of what I didn't like in the Kelly business, the sales.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to get into that. It's like, I'm just gonna.
This is my price. Here you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
There might be some negotiations, but as far as that, it's not. I'm not going to give you a song and dance kind of thing. And you don't have to when you're doing it with dealers because they know what they want to get.
No. And it's almost like for a collector, it's almost like bad news. And I don't like that type of vibe either. It's like,
right.
because they think it's worth this, and
I just gave some of that.
It's worth this, and they're like, "What do you mean it's only worth?" I'm like, I'm sorry.
I just gave some of that bad news to someone today on a doll collection, because I'll even buy that if it's at the right price.
Okay.
But they were above market. So I don't know if they were talking about what they bought it for or whatever, but we were so very far apart.
Mm-hmm.
I thanked them for giving me the opportunity and said we wouldn't be interested. So
yeah, it's
I
don't like that.
You feel
experience.
that it's kind of the pit.
Yes.
Yeah, your
I like
stomach.
to avoid that and just deal with dealers.
So what made you just you started getting a lot of books. You needed some place to put them. So you decided to build.
Well, no. So my house completely filled with comic books in every little corner and nook and cranny. I'd have house parties, and I remember just pictures of people gathering, and then in this corner there's a stack of 12 long boxes.
Yeah.
When I decided to do it full time, I remember I moved to a different house and I had a garage then.
Oh, okay.
I racked out the garage with stuff like this, which was nice. But
Big step up.
Even that couldn't contain it. When my wife moved in, she's like, every room in this house, which was larger than the first one, every room has comics in it. This is nuts. So eventually, they have to leave.
Yeah.
Go somewhere. My dad has a business where he sells trucks, so he owned a lot with an office on it that wasn't in use. He was using the parking lot. So he was like, why don't you, give it a shot, just bring your books up there. So I was there for a couple of years, maybe more than that. Just grinding away, making listings by hand. And eventually friends would come and I'd ask them if they wanted to do some sorting for me. Because you only have so much time, and when you're starting off, you're trying to make as many listings as you can. I've
had so many customers work for me for a couple of weeks or a couple of days, because it just gets so far past you, especially with the new books every week.
Yeah.
Right. Getting them filed away, after 6 months, because we move them 3 months and then 6 months, and then once they're a year old, then we try to put them away in the box they're supposed to be, and it gets away from you.
Well, plus, retail shop, you're just sitting there entertaining customers all day.
All day long.
It's kind of like something that you almost sign on for unwittingly. I didn't quite realize I would just be, having conversations all day and getting nothing done.
Yes, it's a very community-based business, and you are talking about comics for sometimes hours for that person to pick up 2 new books.
Yeah.
Right, and you've got nothing else done.
Yeah.
So
that was one of the things I remember. I was talking to my dad. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do my own thing," and that's like he asked which direction are you gonna try to open a store? And he said that exact same thing. He's like, "You're gonna talk to people for an hour, 2 hours, and they're gonna be like, oh, okay, thanks,' and then buy a $4 comic."
Yeah. Or not buy anything that day. I didn't have anything come in this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a daunting idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if I wanted to go that route. So it just kept with the online, and just online. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just in the zone making listings as fast as I can, and then hire some people and hand the sorting part off to them, so that I don't have to worry about that aspect, because that's extremely time consuming.
It is. It is, and painful. I mean, I love digging through the new stuff that
I
comes in.
love looking through a box that has not been sorted, though.
Sorted, yeah.
That's still fun to do. But I can only do that so much before I'm like, all right, you gotta get back to actual real work. But that is fun. You know,
Absolutely. It's like Christmas. It's treasure. Yeah, treasure hunting.
Of course, that's a blast. So, you know, hiring people to do sorting and then eventually packing, which that was...
That's another tedious, terrible task.
It is, but when you know how to pack in the online business, it's crucial.
Yeah.
So handing that responsibility off to somebody else, that's like, oh, are they gonna make sure the book is secured the right way or packed the right way? And it's, you know, it's tough initially for me to pass that off. It's tough for me to pass everything off, actually, initially, because I'm like, I'm gonna, you know, isn't they gonna make mistakes?
See,
are they gonna,
our children. These are our children.
Yes,
like these businesses are our children. It's very difficult to pass stuff off. And,
sure.
You have to kind of pull the reins in on not micromanaging, but then still managing, right? It's tough.
It is tough. And Joe, actually, he had ended up selling the restaurant that he had created. And I asked him if he wanted to, you know, come do some stuff with me while he was just figuring out his next step.
Right.
So he'd come in, and he's a smart dude. So I felt comfortable handing off a lot to him. You know, and then he's got experience with running a business, with managing people,
and the importance of details,
efficiency,
and stuff
all of that. You know, that I don't have to explain.
Right.
You know, so it's like, oh, this is nice to have someone else here that, you know, has a head on their shoulders and can. I feel like I can let him just do his own thing sometimes, and I'm not, I don't have to be looking over his shoulder.
Right.
So, you know, he could manage the other people that I started to hire a little bit here or there, and without me having to do all that.
Right.
Which, again, it just lets me focus more on making listings. And when you're doing it by hand, you have to be able to make a lot of listings.
Right.
So I was accumulating, I think I was up to 14,000 listings at the time that I had created by hand that had not yet sold.
Wow.
And at the time, eBay's number of listings were plummeting. Not plummeting, but they were going down.
Down. It was a downturn.
Mm-hmm. And I was on the rise, so business was going pretty well, you know, proportionally speaking.
Right.
And then eBay was sending out these deals. Oh, 10,000 free listings.
Free listings
for this month.
Yeah, yeah.
5,000
you had them
free
ready.
Listings. Mine were already up.
Right.
So it didn't help me. But all it did was it bring in
everybody,
so many other people to make listings.
Sure.
So now, you know, they were on the downturn. Now they're back up on the rise, and I can't keep up.
Right.
With making listings to have a decent part of the market share. So I started to get, you know, frustrated.
Sure.
I'm married now, I have a kid now. And I just see I'm going to be eclipsed.
Right.
It's not going to work. So I start trying to figure out, how do I make listings automated almost? And at the time, I was selling on Atomic Avenue, so I was using a program called Comic Base.
Okay.
So I was mostly selling sets and weirder independent type stuff on eBay. Any Marvel stuff, I would list on Comic Base. I would enter into Comic Base, which then sent your inventory up to Atomic Avenue if you wanted to
sell it.
Yeah.
Right. So it was almost like a collection, a program that kept your collection.
That's its primary focus.
Focus, right?
For you to catalog your collection, but it has the added bonus of you listing for free your collection for sale, or you can maintain a separate database of stuff you want to sell, and list that for free. So for me, like, there's no cost initially to list.
Right.
But at the time, eBay was a pay per listing per month.
Yeah.
So like you have to manage your costs, and that was an interesting opportunity to list everything I had on Atomic Avenue that I didn't want to make a listing for.
Right.
So I had $1 books, $2 books in there, but I was like, how do I get those listings onto eBay when they're like, hey, here's 10,000 free listings, 20,000 free listings, and I exported the data, and I remember it was missing a bunch of stuff that I needed. So I called up the owner of Comic Base and I said, "What could can I offer you some money to add this option into the program?" And at the time, he was like, "I'm not looking to make it easier
For you to
for eBay.
Right.
For eBay to make more money.
Right.
He's like, but you could probably break the system somehow. So, I'm not much of a programmer.
Right.
But I was kind of deflated. And I was like, well, I can't do that. So I'm just
But you were willing to pay him something.
I was willing to pay him something. So I found a programmer, and I asked him. I told him what I needed to get out of the database, and he was able to whip up a program that did that. So now I had a database export that I had all those listings in, and eBay has a program called, at the time it was called File Exchange.
Yeah.
But you could
I used to use that.
manipulate the data by creating lots of different columns,
Right.
and you could create listings off of that, off of a spreadsheet. So I had some prior spreadsheet knowledge because Joe and I were making these spreadsheets on how to do formulas and all that.
Right.
So I made this very basic spreadsheet of, okay, well, plug it in here, and then through formulas, it'll set pricing, and it'll set, store categories and stuff like that. So I remember talking to Joe, and I said, we're going to list 30,000 listings this month. And it's great because we have different mindsets. So he's like, okay, so how do we process that? What if 2,000 sell?
Right.
I don't think about any of that. It's just it's unsustainable the way it's going now. So this
Right.
is
We need to find an opportunity.
we need to make this work. So
Yeah.
and a
Make an
lot
opportunity,
of times, a lot of times that's how the dynamic is with Joe and I. It's like, all right, this is what I want to accomplish, and then he'll try to ground me and be like, well, we got to do this, and this. And I'm like, I didn't want to think about any of that, but thank you for for bringing it up to me,
Right.
because they're all valid points.
Right.
But I was determined. I'm like, we're not, whatever it is, we'll do it. I'll stay all night to ship it out or whatever it may be. We're gonna give it a shot. So we gave it a shot, and I remember a book called Psycho Duck sold day one. And I was like, this actually might work. This whole selling singles on eBay.
eBay. Yeah.
Through mass producing it. No way. No way to do it through.
It's not worth your while for $1 or $2 book.
No, it's not worth doing that. But if you can automate the process, there's a customer out there for everything.
100%. Ask for every seat.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So Psycho Duck just stuck out. I'm like, who would ever buy that? But someone wanted Psycho Duck.
Yeah.
So that was the next focus. It's like, okay,
how can we get more listings?
Now this is the new focus. I'm not focusing on manual listings as much anymore. I'm going to try to focus more on putting them into comic base and running through this program here and just churning out listings. So that's kind of the main part of where it is now, is we need to just keep taking an inventory to create more listings.
Right. So speaking of that, is how many listings do you have up at a time?
Now there's 135,000 listings.
135 less, and how many different platforms?
Oh yeah. So initially it was just eBay.
eBay.
Yeah.
And Atomic.
Yeah. But it's very monotonous to delist them between the two.
Right.
They don't sync at all. Very shortly after I expanded it and had now 40,000 listings, Amazon called me up. And they said, we're opening a category for comics and we want you to be on there. And at first I remember thinking I don't want to do this. But, you just got to look at every opportunity that's presented itself to you.
Absolutely.
And really think about it, because you don't get opportunities all the time.
No.
So,
you don't get companies calling you.
Or that.
Come make money from us, through us. Well, you're making them money also, but...
Yeah. Actually, that's one of the other things. So when eBay was generating all those listings for other people, free listings, I remember just sitting there thinking, woe is me.
Right. Here I was making them money. I was doing them right, and then they come along.
Yeah.
How can we give him more competition
Right,
Instead
exactly.
of how can we pump him up more?
Yeah, yeah. So there was a lot of that initially.
Yeah, absolutely. Human nature.
Sure, but if I just wallowed
Not
in
productive.
that, business isn't going to be great because of this.
Right.
Sure, I feel good about it. It's not my own fault. But eventually you just go out of business.
Yeah.
Where does that leave you? So that's
Pivoting.
yeah, but realizing, the victim mentality isn't going to it's not going to serve your interests.
No.
Yeah, it's good to feel bad about yourself or the situation.
Right.
It feels good to feel that way at first, but eventually you have to get out of that.
Absolutely. My philosophy is if you take on that victim mentality, everybody victimizes you.
Yeah, sure.
It's just, this is a guy we can take advantage of because he's a victim.
Yep.
Tells us that every day.
Yep.
How, woe is me, this has happened and that happened.
Yeah.
You have to, now, it happens to everybody. We get into it, but then you got to get out of it fast.
Then you got to start thinking, like you said, pivot. And as owning a small business, you have every opportunity to do whatever you want.
Right.
So I know you've talked about like writing a business plan and all that, but like,
it's still got to be fluid.
It is important, but you can't be rigid in it.
No.
Whatever opportunities are presented to yourself, you kind of have to sneak along with what comes your way.
It's my magic story. It was like I opened a comic book shop and kids came in and like, oh, can you get magic? I looked and a guy I was buying baseball cards from had magic boxes. I said, yeah, all right, I'll have them next week. Bought some magic boxes and now I'm a magic store that sells comic books, so.
Yeah, but if you were like, nah,
yeah,
we're just
please,
doing
I don't
comics.
want your business.
Right. You have to look at every opportunity.
Every opportunity.
But you also have to be hunting for opportunities.
Absolutely.
And ways to grow things. You ever seen Tommy Boy?
Yeah.
So the father gives us some advice in there. He says, in business, you're either growing or you're dying. There ain't no third direction.
Right.
So that's so innovating and trying to think of new ideas and how to better what you're doing is crucial. So when this Amazon opportunity presented itself, and I was like, no, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, why wouldn't I want to do that?
Right.
Amazon has an enormous marketplace. So, all right, let's figure out how that works. So, and then that's where Joe comes into play, and he's very good with like, okay, here's how we can match things up. We'll try to figure out ways to sync the listings between each other using identifiers.
Right.
And so putting our heads together with that and with the eBay download, Amazon has a similar type of thing, or spreadsheet, has a similar type of spreadsheet where you have to specify the different fields and all that, and they can upload a gazillion listings if you want. So now we had listings on Amazon and eBay that were matched. So when one sold,
you would pull it off the other one.
On eBay, well,
there's a little bit of
system. The system. We would know which item sold on which platform.
Right.
But then you'd have to manually delist it from the other, which is.
And the issue is that you've had the same issue that I have, but you could have even a bigger issue is that if a book gets hot that day, if they mention it on, some top 10 list or something, and everybody runs directly to eBay and Amazon to buy all the issues.
Yep, both gone.
Both gone, and you only have one. So.
That happens sometimes. Sometimes the buyer is very understanding about it.
Yeah.
A lot of times they like,
very
oh,
angry.
but you're just holding. Why is it always a hot issue that it happens to? I'm like, because that's how this works. Like, everybody wants it, and everybody.
It's been there for 6 months. If you
could have bought it last month, no problem.
No problem.
Yeah.
You would have got it before the other guy. But you waited until you saw it on YouTube.
Yeah. Yep. So.
Which has been a boon for the business.
It's great.
I don't want to. That is great. Like all the knowledge that's passed on through all these channels about comics is really, made it even more profitable.
That community was very lacking when I was first starting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is nice to see it now. It's nice to see this information getting out there. It's nice to find people that want to know the information.
Right.
But when I was starting, nobody even realized this. Not nobody, but the dealers didn't realize the disparity between the eBay pricing and the overstreet pricing.
No.
So, and there was nobody out there on YouTube really being like, "Hey, this is the book that you should be hunting for."
Right. And then this is what the prices it's been selling for. Like, there's a lot of them that do market. They do it on the Tales of Flip Side. They do the market report. So books that you wouldn't think of, and hey, here's some of the sales. Like, this might be in your collection, and you don't even know it has any value.
Yeah, it's not on your radar.
Right.
Yeah, you don't know what's happening to
No,
it.
so we're on. Now we've got 2 platforms.
We're on Amazon. Well, we're 3, but Atomic isn't synced. And Joe just goes to town thinking about, because he's the one handling the matching of the data. Right. So he's like, oh, this is very time consuming.
Sure.
So he goes to work, you know, teaching himself how to make macros, which are like programs that are created inside the Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
Which kind of automates a lot of the process. So he could say, all right, this sold on eBay, it's this code, and we have another one, or it sold and we don't have any more. So now the system knows, okay, leave it up on Amazon or take it off of Amazon.
Right.
So he's building this out from scratch himself, which is cool. So that helps to really get things done.
Sure.
The more you can automate as far as listing creation and maintenance, it's key.
Yeah.
Key. So, and now we have this database, and we have, through his knowledge, the ability to match and sync on a daily basis the inventory. Now, all right, what other marketplaces are out there? Let's try all of them. Like I said, you got to go with the opportunity and give it a shot. And we've tried many that go nowhere. But you got to give it a risk, you know? You put your effort in, you spend so much time figuring out their system.
Right.
Because it's not like you just
take money spent. It's money spent.
It is. It's time and energy that could be spent making listings or doing other things. So now we have this database that once we figure out how the next input works, we can change it to work with their system.
Right.
So we've tried, Sears, Newegg, places that you wouldn't necessarily think would be selling comics.
Right.
But the opportunity is there. Is it worth it? Let's give it a shot. We don't know until we try it. Bonanza.
Is Bonanza still around?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they've made 14 sales in the past year. So the next one that called me up was Hip Comic.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're launching this marketplace. We want you on there. And I go on there and they've got, I don't know, 20, 30,000 listings.
Right.
I'm like this, there's no real appeal there for me to jump on your system.
Sure.
I like the concept.
Right.
But I don't know if I want to put the time into it. And they said, well, we offer a sync. You don't have to do anything. You just push the button.
Push the button.
Yeah. So it will bring your eBay listings in. So,
right. And then go take them off. Because you turned me onto them. I use them also.
Yeah. And, all right, so, okay, that I can't pass that up.
Right.
Let's do that. So,
and it was magic in the beginning.
They've had some problems
with the sync.
Working the sync out recently. But, initially, the first 4 or 5 years of it was awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect sync between the two marketplaces. So, Hip Comic, Amazon, eBay, we've tried Wish out. Like I said, Sears, Bonanza, Newegg.
Who's the new big one, new big dog that you're going to be on?
No, we're trying to get into Walmart right now. I don't have to worry about it, which is nice. Joe's very into it, working on it right now. He's got a great head for that, so he's. You ever see The Hangover where Alan's looking around and you just see all the numbers floating? That's how I look over at Joe and I feel like that's what's going on. He's like, this column over here, this row over here.
So although you say you got 130,000, 135,000 listings.
Yeah. Times 6.
Times 6. Yeah. So you have over 1 million.
The exposure. It's good exposure. Yeah.
Exposure across the internet, and that's amazing.